We could have learnt it from a cat, says the Talmud. If the Torah wasn't given at Sinai, we could have learned how to be modest from the behavior of a cat, and we could have learned how to be industrious from the behavior of an ant. So why then does the Torah take the time to talk about these important concepts and precepts if we could have learnt it from nature itself? And one of the commentaries explains that there's a deficiency in learning from nature itself, because it is true that a behavior of a cat can be so appropriate and so modest. But if you were to interview a mouse about the behavior of a cat, it would tell you that it is a ferocious feline that will play with you until death with no mercy, with no empathy, with destructive tendencies. A cat in this situation behaves this way. In another situation, it behaves completely differently. It is true that an ant is industrious and will never take a crumb from its fellow ant marching along the column. But if they were to come upon a nest of another colony, they will plunder it and take everything for themselves. Nature itself has strengths, but often and invariably it is in the realm of our subjective need. And outside of our subjective need, we redefine, and we don't necessarily uphold what we said was so important to us because we are able to redefine. The Nazi criminals who perpetrated the Holocaust were supposedly cultured human beings with degrees, people who lived up to expectations of humanity, supposedly. When it came to the Jewish people, they merely redefined the human Jew as being vermin, and therefore it was a favor to the world to annihilate the entire Jewish people. Human beings have elastic intellect. We rationalize. We become so subjective in the way we view the world that we can almost explain away anything that is really evil, and we can turn it into a mitzvah, into something important. So the Torah begins this week's portion with a conjunction. And. We never start a sentence with the word and let alone a whole portion in the Torah. The Hebrew letter Vav is a conjunction, says Rashi, that joins the details of this week's reading to last week's reading. Ma'elu Sinai, just like the rituals of our faith are born in that moment of revelation on Sinai, the most basic rules that relate to interpersonal relationship, the obvious rules that any human being would subscribe to because it's important by human understanding. Ma'elu Sinai, just as those ritual laws came from Sinai, allow the foundation, the bedrock of our human behavior to be born in that moment of revelation at Sinai as well. We don't murder and we don't steal, and we are kind to people and we have mercy on animals because we stood at Sinai. Because if we allow it to become our own intellect that initiates these important things, there will be a moment, a circumstance, a situation in which we redefine and we behave hypocritically in contrast with what our supposed belief system is. We live in a topsy-turvy world, and a world in which there is inverted realities of morality. Today they point fingers at the Jewish people for being genocidal, even as they fight a war against an enemy that has written into its constitution the desire and the intention to destroy, God forbid, the Jewish people. And yet the world judges the possible intentions of Israel, even as they respond to the real intentions, the explicit intentions, the recorded constitution that they abide with, which is to destroy the Jewish people. We live with inverted senses of morality, and we can explain it away with our elastic sense of understanding because we become so subjective. Ma'elu Sinai, just as the ritual laws are anchored in Sinai, anchor the most basic rules of society in a God-given faith and responsibility so that it endures at all times, in all circumstances. We enter this Shabbat with a brand new month of Adar. Adar is the time of joy and happiness. And this year, 2 months of Adar, 2 times 30 days, 60 days of joy and happiness. May our attitude of positivity and energy to be happy and to live the joy of life, notwithstanding the difficult circumstances that surround us. Usher in the real reasons for joy, of peace, tranquility, for our people Israel, for all the people of the world. May that be a moment sooner with the coming of redemption. Have a beautiful Shabbos.